Back with another video. Had the 4 hours of Imola races this weekend on iRacing. I did 5 of them. The first 4 didn't end up so well, but the 5th one was perfect. So first one, we're just gonna go over the first 4 really quickly because they're fucking meaningless. First one, I was literally the only one in LMP3. We were originally gonna race LMP3. I just gave up. It was fucking boring. Second one,
Are you fucking kidding?
probably my worst retirement I've ever had through sim racing. Locked my fronts going into the pit lane, and I got stuck. Third one, is when I decided to switch to LMP2 because LMP3 sucked.
Yeah, I'm done.
But after like 2 hours, we had a whole bunch of damage, and we were hoping to get top 5 just based off of pace before that, but then we had
82 seconds.
a huge chunk of damage, so we weren't going to repair it, and we were just like, fuck it, let's quit. Next one, we actually did finish, but we fucking had a bunch of damage and ended up 3 laps down at the end in the last of the running cars. This is the actual good one though. So this is my fastest quali lap. Before this, I can't even remember, a 32.8, and I was like up, but I spun. And I was like, I know there's more in this car. I just haven't actually done it yet. So letting off right around where the pavement starts on the right hand side and braking as soon as the green, white, and red curbs starts, trying to stay off those huge mound curbs because they kind of do unsettle the car, but taking as much as I can. Up 5 tenths through the first sector. Probably could have gotten pulled if I took that hairpin right, but I didn't. I'm really just trying to go as fast as I fucking can, although I don't really know where the limit is because I haven't really done much, if at all, quali practice with this car. Really just was doing like race pace laps to practice because it was like the night before I decided that I wanted to run LMP2 instead of LMP3 in this race because the LMP3 fucking sucks. So the braking points were like kind of similar. You could brake a little bit later with this car, but the cornering speeds and the acceleration is a lot better. The LMP3 and the GT3s have like similar acceleration. So like the LMP3 might have a little bit like faster, but without like, if you get a bad exit, you're not passing them, even on like the main straight when they're right in front of you. So we switched it over to LMP2. Ended up P3 after a 31. I can't remember, but I mean, the race settled in pretty quickly. Like as much chaos as it looks like going on right now. Coming out of turn 1, everything was kind of settled. 2 cars behind me went wide, almost had some contact, but that's about it. The rest is really just like maintaining traffic for my my first stint here. It settled in pretty quickly. The top 3 kind of broke ahead. Everybody else stayed behind. The top 2 in front of me were a little bit faster. I think if I guess we just had less mistakes than they did going into this. So as you can see, there's I don't know exactly what happened, but there's P1 spun around. Not much is really coming out of that. I think they ended up pretty far back. I can't exactly remember. But yeah, at this point, it's really just dealing with traffic and the sketchy GT3 traffic. As you can see there, there's P1 getting some contact made. And there, just, I get he was on the racing line, but I'm clearly coming in, and he just dives right in. Like, I think what the multi-class racing in iRacing has over LMU is that LMU is probably a little bit more casual. Like right there, that what is that? Lexus was sticking to the outside. Like, go on the racing line, you have to be predictable. And I just don't think that people in this game, yet again, the McLaren ahead, doing the same exact thing. I don't think that people really understand how the multi-class racing works in this game quite yet. So that's definitely a bit of a struggle. Or maybe it's just the track, because at least, granted, for the Le Mans 6 hours, we were racing the slower class, so like we were doing GT3, so it wasn't as like prominent, and there's a lot more spaces to fucking pass. Or yeah, that spin kind of just threw me for a loop there. Yeah, this track and this race, all about attrition. Like, the track temp got up to like 128, I think, at one point. Tires were definitely a problem.
You're running pretty slow.
Especially in these cars, keeping your tires cool are a necessity.
Oh, looks like he also spun.
Right after that, same exact thing. P1 spun. The gap went from 10 seconds back down to 2. And at this point, you're just trying to avoid that, to try and keep the gap as close as you possibly can. And I try and do as good of a job as I can, but at some cases, there's just no way to do it. As predictable as you think you're being, as predictable as other cars think they're being.
Go to
like,
the fucking racing line, man.
As you can see, I get a little bit exacerbated about people not doing what they're necessarily supposed to be doing. So it's definitely a struggle, especially on a track like this where there's plenty of like medium to high speed corners where the LMP2s have a clear advantage to the GT3s. It's the closing speeds are pretty quick, and I try my best to like just ease off the throttle when I know I'm not going to catch the car in front into the turn or before the turn, because I know that it might spook them and then they might spin. So really just trying to manage their behavior too as well. Like, but when people are coming across on you like that, I don't know exactly what you're supposed to do there. That was a clean pass. I just caught neutral. If I was in first gear, it would have been a little bit smoother. I definitely had that. Then this guy going back to the left, not going to the racing line. I thought he was going to go to the racing line. He ended up not doing it until I was already beside him. Like, you really just have to try and avoid all of this as much as you can. But during my first stint, that's all you really get caught with. We had our second team. We had a second team running the GT3, so I just gave him a little nudge just to say, hi, how are you? And whenever I ran into them at whatever point during the race, I'd always try and mess around with them, try and get them a little scared, because I at least know them. Most of these other cars, not really. Even at this point in the first stint, I'm running into traffic with my own cars.
Bro, oh my god.
Like, I don't really know what is happening there. Maybe they caught neutral, not 100% sure. At this point, I'm losing too much time. The gap has grown to 6 seconds. I've got to get around this guy. And throughout the first stint, I think I was probably a little bit more aggressive than I should have been. But I knew, like, just based off of how traffic was going, at least for me, that the gap wasn't growing like as much as I think it should have been. So,
Okay.
yeah, like stuff like that. So I think that we had the pace to challenge for first. Because I don't know how he was getting with the traffic, but
Fucking
this is
idiot.
the entire start of the race for me, is just dealing with some sort of traffic. And people not exactly knowing where they're supposed to be on track.
Pick a side, man.
And that's all it really is managing, especially at a track like this, where it's easy to get into a flow at Imola, but especially when you're dealing with this mess in front of you, it's kind of hard.
Yeah.
And now the gap has grown a little bit, not too much. At this point, I wasn't sure if he was solo or not, but now I figured out that he was. Like looking back, so
I've been driving without.
I knew
fucking,
that the guy who I was racing with had pretty
crew chief this
similar
entire
pace
fucking
to me,
first stint, and now
so
I'm turning it back on.
if a slower driver got in his seat, then
It's hard to go back.
we might be able to definitely challenge for a win here. But he ended up driving the full 4 hours solo.
Do you
So
use autofuel for
No, I don't.
going in
I don't either.
at this point, we're however many cars we got on the lead lap. We have 5 cars on the lead lap at the end of my first stint. Just taking tires here. I did end up using a fresh set at the start of the race, which at this point I do kind of regret doing. Looking back later on, I think the smarter option would have been to take my quali set into my first stint, and then
It's not.
take a fresh set when my double ends and the next driver goes in, and then take a fresh set for the last stint, because
Come on, man.
the tires do
Again,
not
dude.
last on this track at all.
Fucking stuck behind a fucking GT3.
Going out,
Hit exit.
I gained a little bit of time to the guy ahead.
He's letting me by.
Thank God this GT3 car let me just go ahead. So coming out, we've got a little, like I think I gained like a tenth maybe, but I'm just gonna lose all that here, dealing with the GT3. Yeah, second stint, not as much happened. It was pretty like inconsequential. It was really just like, let's keep up the pace.
What are you fucking doing, man?
Still dealing with traffic. It seems like it was the same cars almost every single time, who didn't exactly know what they were doing. I've seen this McLaren, I don't even know how many times. He just is in the middle of the track. Even the other McLaren behind me almost made contact with me. This was the last race on Sunday, and there were only 2 splits. So we were split 2 out of 2. So it's not really I mean, it's bottom split, but like how much bottom split can you really get when you've only got 2 splits? But it seemed to be definitely a struggle for everybody around here. Running into the GT3 team again. At a pretty unfortunate spot. At this point, the gap has grown to right around 10 seconds. Really just kind of, yes. And then, coming up to the hairpin, we see, he spun, and with how deep he is into that, my first thought is, does he have damage or not? And then, towards the end of the lap,
His tires are gonna be fucking.
I think he does end up hitting. Yeah, he ends up going into the pits.
Stopped again.
Oh no, he's still behind me. I think he ends up spinning again. I think he ended up with some sort of, some sort of like suspension damage after making contact with either another car or the wall, because he did end up going in at the end of that lap. And was in there for a while. I'm pretty sure I gained a whole lap on him while he was in the pits. So I think he did end up with a huge chunk of damage. Run into the teammates again. Just giving him some flashes, just to say hi. And then I think is this the one where I cut my, nope. Oh yeah, just giving him a little bob and weave right here. They did not end up doing as good as we did, but they still gained, I think, like 8 positions, I'm pretty sure. I can't remember exactly, but yeah. Dealing with traffic the entire time, just driving right down the middle of the track, going into the braking zone. Don't exactly know what he's thinking. Just the same thing with the LMP2 cars. The GT3 cars also are dealing with hot tires, so you gotta watch out for shit like that. And it happened pretty frequently as well. As you can see, I think this one also gets a little loose coming out of here. Yep, takes a little bit too much curb. That probably wasn't exactly tires, but it's still the same thing. Really, at this point, I've probably slowed down a little bit, not as aggressive now that I knew that we're just about a lap ahead of everybody, as P2 is right in front of me. I know that we've spun once, but as far as damage goes, we seem to have done a pretty good job at avoiding it so far, although we've come pretty damn close to it. So at this point, I'm kind of not really as aggressive as, not necessarily I should have been, but I'm definitely taking a step back and like not really going for like moves on other either lapped LMP2 cars or GT3 cars, because I know at this point the win is kind of in the bag. Like, unless we fuck up a bunch, we kind of have the win. He ends up slowing down on the racing line and letting me by, which, I mean, probably not the smartest thing, but, you know, what are you gonna do? Yeah, this guy in P8 ended up being like 15 laps down at the end. He's a trooper, man. Shout out to him. But even we are fucking spinning out. As we already did once. At this point, end of my stint. Lap ahead of everybody, although we are on a different pit strategy to most people. Obviously, P2 is going to get a lap back, and P3 might get a lap back. I'm not 100% sure. But going into... I can't remember who I can't remember who I drove with, to be completely honest. But they were doing not too shabby. Ended up keeping the gap pretty similar. Like, as you can see here, I'm kind of just going back and forth in between their two cars, and the gap is sitting at around 20 seconds the entire time. Goes into the pits for his... Or P2 goes in the pits, refuels. We're about like halfway through, a little bit over halfway through his first stint, and now he runs into the demon of the hot tires, or maybe making contact with the GT3. Nice job getting out the way. We see our teammate go back in the mirror. He gets out of the way a little bit too much, and now we've got rear like diffuser damage and some right rear suspension damage. He says the car's fine. We go in, or we continue on. Blah blah blah. I'm still doing the same thing, swapping back and forth, and then he hits it again. So at this point, we've gotten even more damage. We're not continuing on with this. So he's bringing it back. I'm getting the pit stop all set up. He wants to swap drivers, let himself cool down. So he goes in. We've got, I don't even know how long for damage. But I'm getting in the car for the pit stop, fuel up, keep the same tires on, because although he did spin, they're pretty fresh tires. Like, they only went out for like maybe like 20 laps almost. So my idea is continue on
P3, why the fuck did he
to the end of this one, and then maybe when I come in for the next pit stop, swap tires. I wasn't gonna do it this early. I didn't have a fresh set, but I did have my quali set still available, which were all above like 90%, so wasn't that big of a deal. Coming out the pits, I think we have the same exact gap, maybe a little bit longer, or a little bit shorter to P2, as we did going in, except now we're all basically on the same pit strategy. We're offset by probably like 10 laps before, but now we're only offset by like a few laps. The guy in P3 was the guy in P1 before when I was following him, so I knew we had pretty similar pace, and from previous races I knew the guy in P2 did not have the pace that I did, so I know that I'd like catch up, or I know the gap would drop eventually, and he ended up going to the pits anyways, so it didn't even really matter.
No!
Literally like 6 laps in, there's my first spin. It happened a lot more in the second half. Kind of a shitty rejoin. Probably should have looked at the deltas a little bit better, but my thought was just get back on track. The same Lexus, you know, I don't know how many times I ran into him. He's going all the way left, almost off track, and then at the last second decides to go to the right. I didn't exactly know what he was doing. At this point in the race, we had a big enough gap to where I probably shouldn't have even, like, done that. But then a few laps later, tires are still hot, and spin again. But he passes again. So then I run into him like a lap or two later, maybe right up here. He does the same exact thing. Just late move. Like, I don't really know what some of the thought is behind these GT3 drivers, but I just hope it doesn't seem like I'm that bad. I run into him again at the same spot. Now he's driving down the middle of the track, and now, like, I don't really know what is happening. I really don't know. But at this point, the gap is dropping from P2, so I know that I've got to pick it up a bunch. Going into the pits, he went in a few laps before we did. I probably should have taken tires here. Just, like, hindsight is 2020. Knowing what happens in my last stint, I probably should have taken tires here. The track was going down by a few degrees, maybe, but that's all of, like, 125 degrees. So the peak was, like, 128. And even with it getting, like, later in the day, the track did not go down in temps at all. At this point, this is like what I raced for 2 hours on Friday night, like 2 hours each on Saturday, like 2 hours on Sunday, and then at this point, this is my like
one in a row. And the first one didn't go so well.
3rd hour racing for this race. So I don't know how many laps I've had or how many hours in the rig I had within 3 days. Probably upwards of like 2, 6, 8. This is probably like 11 hours right now. And definitely getting fatigued at this point, which also could have contributed to that. But in between, like, or a few laps after my teammate took over the car, I did end up taking some Tylenol because my wrists and my like forearms were hurting that much.
Yeah, let's just go straight on.
Yeah, just making dumb mistakes, letting that gap drop down even more. Now we're below 40 seconds after that. I just completely forgot what gear I was in. Took the turn in second. My car didn't rotate as much as I wanted it to, and then bam, there you go. This is P4. He lets off a little bit later. Not really his fault. I definitely, like...
Oh my god!
I don't even know why. Maybe my tires were dirty, maybe they were hot, maybe I hit the throttle a little bit too much. But just letting that gap drop down even more. Now we're at 25 seconds, and probably like 20 seconds more like it when I get back to like driving speed.
Oh my god.
Yeah, now we're a few laps left. We got less than 20 minutes left. Gap is at 15 seconds now. Coming up to the teammates again. And this is where I cut their nose off. I just like fucking with them every single time, even with like 20 minutes left when we're in the lead and the gap is dropping. I'm like, let me just fuck with them a little bit. So we roll up to them again
Cut their nose off.
with a few minutes left at the hairpin, and maybe it was karma. It was karma for that last little clip, but we run right up into him with
Are you
a 20-second
fucking
gap
kidding me?
with 5 minutes, less than 5 minutes left, and I spin it, and the grass is fucking slippery here, so it is hard to get back moving. That gap is continuing to drop because I'm slow getting off the line. And from this point on, I don't think I have any more cuts, so it's kind of just the last few laps after I decide to almost put it in the wall for the, like, 6th time this race.
Down the hill.
Really, at this point, the tires are fucking hot, the track is hot, I've been racing forever already, and I know that the guy behind is probably faster than me at this point in the race. Really, my only goal right now is to keep it on track, because I don't think he can catch up. I know he could if there were, like, probably a few more laps left, so I'm not, like, that worried, but even on, like, raw pace and, like, getting stuck in traffic and this, that, and the other thing, I don't think he could catch up to 6 seconds in, like, 3 laps, unless something bad happens again. I mean, granted, we already had a lap lead on everybody, and we've blown that so far. So, at this point, you never know. So, I'm really, like, trying to be as cautious as possible, but also trying to get some space in between me and the car ahead. So, thank God that he let me by. Coming up on our teammate again after we already spun. He's giving me a little bob and weave. I'm really not fucking with it right now. Second car moves out the way because the gap is now below 5 seconds. We've got to get moving. Granted, at this pace, he would not catch me by the end of the race, but it would be pretty damn close. So really just trying to be cautious, but also be fast. We did end up upping the traction control
block him?
on about halfway through our like first GT3 or our first LMP2 run, because of how hot the track is. Although it did like hinder the rotation a little bit in the slow speed turns, like we got more understeer. The tires were way less hot and we were spinning way less than we did before. So although we lose like maybe like a 10th overall, it helped out more in consistency in everywhere else because we weren't spinning as much and our tires weren't as hot. So, coming around for almost the last time, There's one more lap after this. Honestly, if we still had that gap, I probably would have slowed down and waited for the clock to strike 0 and then pass, but we didn't have that gap anymore. So as much as I wanted to, after all the racing that I did, I couldn't. Yeah, so the next race is Brazil, I'm pretty sure. And we're going to be running hypercar on that. So that'll be the next
final stint, but
the next
you know,
probably video that I'm going to make. I'm kind of busy that weekend, so I don't exactly know if I'll even make a video, depending on what our finishing order is. But we should be running right around I think we're doing, or I'm signed up for a Thursday run and a Friday run, or Thursday and a few Fridays. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, just coming around the track for the last time, kind of taking a victory lap, kind of not. The gap is still there. Definitely small enough to where if I spin, he's winning the race, which is something that I don't want to do. So I'm really just trying to keep it consistent at this point. So yeah, I actually despise the ELMS. I don't know if it's just this track specifically or if it's just like the entire like ELMS like series, but the LMP3 cars are only faster than the GT3 cars in the corners. Like, the acceleration is still the same. So, I think it adds way too much chaos. And I think that if it's going to be a thing in the past or in the future, then I think that there needs to be wider tracks or tracks with longer straights, because realistically, the only place that you could pass like a GT3 car in like the LMP3 class is on the main straight if you're right behind them and get a good exit and get the draft. Like, it sucks trying to battle with the cars because it's a faster class in quotation marks, but they're like fighting with other cars not in their class because of how like slow they are on the straights. And I think that having no LMP3s in our split contributed to us getting the win because there wasn't as much congestion on track.
Well, not fully. I've only done
So
two
yeah.
fully, and they were both today.
Next is going to be Brazil.
One
I'm
Friday
gonna
night
get the full
like 2
race
hours and
uploaded
got
here
crashed
pretty
out.
soon.
Then I did two
For the psychopaths that
yesterday,
want to watch that.
and got crashed out of both of them.
And
today
yeah,
are the only two
that's
that I
about it.
finished. The first one we did, we were like